All right, what's up, guys?
We
Welcome
are
to
here.
our show tonight. We have myself, Greg, Brian. It's my first time hosting, so we'll figure it out.
Yes.
We're going to kind of put together a couple things tonight. We're going to talk about the draft. We're going to talk about the PJ Tucker news that dropped a few hours ago. We just saw late breaking news. Omer Yurtseven will be playing at Summer League, so we may have instant reaction to that. Obviously, big news there. We'll do a little bit of reflecting. June 20th is a big day in Miami Heat history, probably the biggest day in Miami Heat history. So we'll look back at the 2006 and 2013 NBA championships. And then we're going to talk a little bit of transaction talk. We've been doing that a lot lately, so we're going to kind of push that to the end, and we'll definitely take suggestions, trades, comments, and stuff from the crowd as we go through that. So please fill out the comments and all those things as we go through. So we're going to start off with the June 20th talk. So June 20th, famously, Pat Riley said he was only bringing one suit to Dallas. We got the championship on June 20th in Game 6. Then 2013, obviously it took a Game 7 after the Ray Allen shot. So I want to kind of send it around the panel. What do you guys remember? Let's start with Brian. With the 2006, the first championship in Heat history, what do you remember about that? I won't ask anybody how old they are because I know me and Greg will have to show our age right there. But hey, it is what it is. Brian, go ahead.
I also want to say the Yurt news was so shocking that Tony just dipped out of the entire live. Right when you said Yurt was playing in Summer League, Yurt is already shaping up the Miami Heat summer. I'm getting some feedback. I think that's from Tony, but no biggie. We're live. It is what it is. 06. So I saw the highlights of Game 6 not that long ago, actually. I don't remember what I was watching it for, but YouTube just knows I like watching basketball highlights and shit. And I forgot how good UD really was throughout the course of that series, which is something that I was reminded of recently when I went back and watched it, because I saw 6 and I was like, let me see part of Game 3, let me see part of this, let me see whatever. And UD was nice in that series. Dwayne Wade was just sensational. And I remember and I'm going to toss this back because a lot of people, and I imagine y'all were getting annoyed at this, were making the Jason Tatum 2022 to Dwayne Wade 2006 comparisons. And having seen Dwayne Wade very recently, just on YouTube, like I said, it was not the same. I'll say that much. It was not really that close either.
Hell no, it wasn't close. I mean, that's just that was one of the more, sometimes you just got to realize Twitter is this little vacuum of opinions and it's not reality, because for that to get floated around as an actual talking point, it's hard to believe that that's reality. But here we are. 06 was crazy. There's moments leading up to the championship that I think Heat fans that had been around okay, I'll show my damn age. I was 40. I'm 40 now. So you can imagine in 06, whatever that made me, I was in, whatever, my 20s. Can't do that math right now. That's too much math. I'm trying to add up these contracts and where they're going to go. I can't do this math. No, but Jay Will's 10 for 10 or whatever that was against Detroit leading up to the championship. Them actually getting to the finals was just this absolute, there was this part of it where you felt you couldn't believe you were actually on that stage. It was also something Shaq promised us. So he was fulfilling that promise, even though he didn't have a great finals. I think people sometimes forget that he dominated the Chicago Bulls early in that run. And 06 and 13 are both runs. And I guess I'll say this with a straight face and confidence. Those are the only two that actually had me emotional enough to shed a tear. The Spurs win was different. It didn't evoke that type of emotion, but the other two did. So I find that as a differentiation, even though obviously the 2013 title is looked at as Miami's most prolific group. I think the other two are closer to the heart.
Yeah, Tony, what do you remember from that 06 championship? You were probably in 4th grade, but what do you remember, man?
An 11-year-old doesn't remember too much about the moment. All right. I was playing NBA Courtside 2 featuring Kobe Bryant on my Nintendo GameCube. That was my life. That's all I did. That's all I knew about basketball at the time. when you look at that 06 run in perspective now with context, having an expansion team get to the finals that quickly and to execute a win on that stage so fast, it meant everything for the franchise now in retrospect. And when people ask me what they thought the most important finals was, I'll always tell them 06, even though I don't remember it, right? Because of what it meant and how important it was for the franchise. And it put Miami on the map as this icon organization that we have today, where we have dudes like Kevin O'Connor and Mark Stein today, even though every free agent, every acquisition looks like a long shot that everyone's talking about, still going, Miami can do anything because we don't even know how they made the Jimmy Butler math work. And that's just the truth. And it all came off the back of Pat Riley coming here and 2006. But that 2013 championship, boy, let me tell you, I ran down the street after the Ray Allen shot. I grabbed a pot and I grabbed a wooden spoon and I ran down my street with my shirt off, just banging it. I knew we won. I knew we won a championship at that moment. I knew. And the emotions and the feelings I have made me fall in love with basketball right there. I was a fan of basketball, but I'm from Philadelphia, so the Eagles unfortunately run through my veins, and I can't get rid of them no matter how hard I try.
Sean.
But I fell in love with basketball that day. Sean understands.
Yeah, it's a passionate sports city. We got a couple people in the chat that have shared, how they were, what they remember. I kind of have a similar experience to Greg. Like, I think with both of us being a little bit older and remembering actually living through the times of like Glenn Rice and Brad Lohaus and Khalid Reeves and Kurt Thomas and, like that, the shining moments were like Glenn Rice dropping, what was it, like 50 something on the Magic and
on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, like that type of stuff was like all you had. And then you have those moments like 95 when Pat and Zoe came, you kind of knew it was about to change. And then when the Shaq trade, well, actually before that, when the Wade draft happened, I actually was working for Heat Camp and we worked the draft party. And that moment, like it sinks to me. Like I remember the energy in there. I remember him getting up on the Jumbotron from the draft and being like, yo, it's going to change. We're going to do all this. And like, he had that energy to him, even from day one when you didn't even know what he was going to be about. And then the same thing. Go ahead.
My dumb ass wanted Kirk Heinrich. So like I'll go on record as saying that like I was one of those cats that was like, well, yo, I mean, we're paying Eddie Jones like a max deal. Like, what are you gonna do? You gotta feel like, so that shows you how much I knew, because obviously the minute that Dwayne got on the court, like the first summer league moment that you looked at him just like operate in that space, you knew, oh shit, he was a ball player. And then just to ascend so fast, literally in 06, and I'm sure we can bounce around after this. I don't mean to hog the memory lane talk, but yo, Dwayne was Jordan to Heat fans. Like literally, there were moments throughout the first run in 05 where they came up short, and then 06 where they got to the mountaintop, and then after that, even when the team was kind of downtrodden and had some years where they were 4 or 5 seeds, you felt like Dwayne could do anything. He was capable of anything. And that like was also a level of hope that I don't know Heat fans had ever had prior to that. Like Alonzo Mourning was awesome. He's one of my favorite players ever, but he didn't do the things that Dwayne did.
Let me ask you a question for you two in particular. With Jimmy, I have like this deep connection of watching him play and fight for this franchise, right? I caught the tail end of Dwayne, and I love Dwayne a lot, but it doesn't quite feel the same that it feels for Jimmy. When you guys watch Jimmy now, and you've been through Wade from the point that we drafted him, are the emotions similar, or does it still kind of feel like maybe not mercenary vibes because Jimmy's ingrained in the culture, but just like a guy you really like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, no disrespect to Jimmy, but it's not the same. I think
right.
Part of it is because Dwayne was ours from the beginning, and I know he left temporarily, but like, look, man, like he's ours. Jimmy has been in other stops. He's done other things. I think that's the big difference. Now, this could shift and come back in a couple of years. Jimmy wins a championship. Now we're changing our story a little bit, but I still don't think he can ever pass Dwayne in the hearts of
no. See, but that's the beauty of it. It's different, and that's what's cool. It's like Dwayne came and it was like, oh, so now like we're actually going to become relevant nationally. Like it was like we were a show to be like that Shaq and Dwayne stuff. Jimmy came and it was different. He was picking up a franchise that was going in the wrong direction. Zach Lowe said they had the bleakest future and all that kind of stuff. So there is an element of what Jimmy did to kind of revive the franchise that I think is a cool story. And it's just different than the way Dwayne did it. And that's what's dope about each era of team building and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually cool that Tony says he's closely connected to Jimmy in that way, because it shows how each era connects to the team. And there are some franchises where nobody connects to any of the players and everybody's just kind of meh about everybody for decades. And we could find a few teams if we want to point them out.
Sacramento.
Let's shift gears and talk about the 2013 finals. So we spent some time talking about 2006, 2013. Obviously, you know, the second championship, 2013 was the third. The second championship was won on the 21st, which would be tomorrow. So talking about the 2013 championship, obviously a lot of people remember the Ray Allen shot, Game 6, the ropes, and all that stuff. But Game 7 was also huge. I mean, it was a very competitive game. It was probably one of the best NBA games, NBA Finals games in recent history. What do you guys remember about that championship? Let's start with Bryan again.
That's another thing that I went back and saw recently. Game 7, closer than I remembered also. And part of me also forgot that there was one, because after that shot, it was like, yo, wait, they have to play another game? What I remember, and for people who weren't here at the very beginning, we're going to get to all the current shit very shortly, just in case you're wondering why we're going down memory lane here. Because people might see the title and be like, yo, what the fuck? Stay calm. We're going to get there. So the 2013, the only thing I could point out about is, like, I remember going to school around this time and motherfuckers hated the Heat. Hated the Heat. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of, or really loved them. What was really annoying in particular was in 2K, when you tried to go head to head with people online, a lot of people would use the Heat, whereas before they would use Cleveland a lot because they were just, you know, riding LeBron wherever he went. That shit was annoying. But in terms of that championship, I remember thinking like, yo, they're probably never going to lose again because they won. They won back to back. And it was like, shit, they have LeBron. Like, they could just re-sign him at some point. Obviously, we know how that ended up going. And I just, that was a time where I was like, oh, they're like a legit like power in the NBA in terms of having 3 titles in, 34 years, 24 years or something like that at that point in their franchise's history, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it'd been 88 to 2013, so whatever that meant.
Yeah, like 25 years basically to have 3 titles and, you know, 5 trips at that point, or 4 trips at that point, whatever the math is. I'm getting my math all fucked up. But that solidified it for me to like, oh, this franchise is like legit. And the other thing that did was shortly after that was when LeBron left, this franchise is the only one that when LeBron left, they actually stayed afloat. They weren't contenders. And if Chris Bosh doesn't have his situation, who knows? But they weren't contenders, but they didn't go into the tank like the Cavs did twice. And like the Lakers, I mean, not the Lakers, like the Cavs did twice. And, you know, with the Lakers, they haven't been able to sustain their run. They had one season that started off well. LeBron got hurt. They had the title, and they've been down ever since. And this franchise being able to just remain afloat and just make it work until Jimmy Butler ended up getting here, then that said a lot to me.
It was something about the whole year of 2013 after, you know, the adversity that they went through in their first year together. And it was something about the OKC championship not quite feeling like what the depth of the team could accomplish, right? It just didn't feel that way. We kind of just beat OKC very easy. There was those moments against Boston, yeah, and those final in the playoff run to get there, but it didn't feel like the highest level of basketball. But the San Antonio Spurs felt like the highest level of basketball opponent that team could face together in one shot. So when I'm trying to not laugh at Bryan dying right now.
No, that was a great comment, Jose. That Boston won 1 title since the Heat existed. That's fucking crazy.
It's very true.
Because before this happened, before
Very true.
before the 2022 finals happened, people were like, "Oh, the Celtics are gonna get their 18th title." And then I went and looked it up. I was like, they've had 4 since the merger, and the merger is very significant in NBA history, if you know that. 3 during the Larry Bird era, and then the one with KG, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen. That's it. Just 4 since the merger. And they want to act like, they have 18 titles or whatever, when a lot of them were against, we don't have to go into it. You won some titles with like 8 teams in the league. Like, come on.
They bought one in the modern era. That's what they got. That's it.
Anyway, that was a great comment, Jose. That was funny.
What you forget about 2013, not just the win streak, but you forget about LeBron's 61 piece against the Bobcats. And that beat Glenn Rice's playoff scoring record that year. You forget about all the pieces that started to check boxes where, like Brian said, you thought this was the greatest team that ever walked the planet. Those conversations about the Bulls and the 85 Celtics, we had those conversations all the time about who the best team in the world was. And it felt like the Miami Heat were the absolute best team that's ever played basketball. And they come up against the Spurs. And honestly, the first 4 games swing back and forth like a pendulum while coaches feel each other out and matchups work each other out. And then when you get to game 5, 6, and 7, these games get tight. It was the best basketball I've ever got to experience as a fan. Just 2 supremely talented teams with excellent coaches playing X's and O's in ways that I've never seen team play X's and O's before. That 2013 finals, man, it felt like everything that team was supposed to be, and it had an opponent that made them set up to be the heroes that I thought they were supposed to be. When you beat an OKC, you don't feel like Goliath. You don't feel like Ali Frazier. It doesn't feel like that. But when you play the Spurs, it felt like that. And that was the moment that team was created to have. And man, did they kill it on the biggest stage.
Greg, what do you remember about the 2013 title?
It became more valuable to me as time went on in retrospect than it happened in the moment. Honestly, I had a totally different experience than Tony. The OKC title was so much more because there was this gigantic relief of that. It was like a validation of them coming together because the first run came up short and the whole world hated them and they laughed. It was the worst summer ever. So then when they actually got to the championship and they closed the deal, there was this sense of relief that was not there for the next one because you felt like you were starting to build a little bit of gravy where it's like, how many do you really expect to win? And obviously we expect to win every year as fans because we're fanatical, but that's not necessarily realistic. But now in retrospect, when you look back at the whole body of work, it becomes kind of it's a pillar in Heat history as one of the greatest moments because of where it ranks in league history as a team, as an individual performance from LeBron, Ray Allen's shot being one of the most crazy clutch shots in NBA Finals history. So now the winning streak in retrospect, that is now a really big deal. Who knows when we'll see another team do that. So to me, that's how it's weird how we all have these different experiences because they were the mighty Spurs. You're totally dead on there. There was a different quality of victory against San Antonio. But man, that one against OKC was just such a sigh of relief because we had so much pressure mounting on them, Yeah,
I agree with that too. I think, looking at the Spurs championship at the time, it was like we expected. It was just going to happen. It's going to keep happening. Like Brian said, we were just going to keep winning. And I feel like that's why 2014 was such a punch in the gut because you just thought it was going to be a three-peat. This is what's supposed to happen. We're going to win 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever. And then we just got ran off the floor, man, in 2014. I was going to add in 2013, I was at game 6. I drove down for the game the Ray Allen shot, the picture that's usually used from the opposite baseline, his release, my body is right above it. I'm standing there very stoically crossed, in fear of what's about to happen. I didn't leave like a lot of people. I know that did happen. It definitely did. There's no denying that. But when that thing went in, and I had a good enough angle that you could almost tell it was going in, and then obviously you got Norris jumping around. It was wild. I don't think I've ever been at a place that wild in that very moment. I've been at wild environments. The Boston game 6 a few weeks ago. I went to a bunch of the Detroit games when they were playing in 06 and 05. Those environments was nothing like that, whatever couple minutes right after Ray hit that shot. So I want to reference something real quick. We're gonna kind of transition and talk about Biscayne Bay Brewing. I don't know if we're gonna get the tweet up on the screen, but I put a poll earlier today. Which of the two championships, 2006 or 2013, is more important to Heat history? You can vote on that. It's on Biscayne Bay Brewing. They're one of our sponsors. Great beers they have over at Marlins Park. You can check them out. Me and Tony often control the account, so we throw stuff up there about the Heat. We try to put some stuff up there about the Marlins. It's just kind of tough, man. It's not a whole lot of content coming out of there. But yeah, here we go. Here's the tweet. So holiday for the Heat, as we've been talking about. Which of those two? I think right now it's like 82% for 2006. It's our first one. I thought it would be a little closer, but I think, it's a momentous occasion. We've talked about it on both sides. And I think to Greg's point, it's a lot about your perspective. If you weren't alive for 2006, I think those people maybe lean more 2013. But I think those of us that were alive for both, I think 2006 is probably where I would lean also.